The headstock of your guitar is located at the top where you will usually find the guitar's branding or logo. Next are the tuning pegs, otherwise known as the machine heads, that help you tune your instrument. Your guitar's nut helps guide your strings into alignment with your tuning pegs. Your guitar strings are attached to the body by its neck.
Most electric guitars have 21 to 24 frets. The neck of your guitar has a fingerboard that is divided up by fret markers or frets. These differences can affect the tone and playability of the guitar. Your guitar's neck can dramatically affect its tone. The lighter the neck or fingerboard wood, the brighter a guitar's tone, especially in the form of a maple neck and fingerboard. A darker fingerboard, such as a rosewood, can give a guitar a darker, more heavy metal tone. Your guitar neck will either be bolted onto the body on a Fender-style neck, or it can be glued in or set, as you will find in a Gibson-style guitar neck.
The instrument's body would be equally as important as the guitar's neck when it comes to tone. A thick, mahogany-based body can generate lower, more bass-driven tones commonly associated with heavy metal. An ash, alder, poplar, or maple body will most commonly generate a mid-range or bright tone. If you want to mix the best of both of these worlds, you could get a mahogany-backed guitar with a maple cap on top. If you really want to achieve that heavy metal sound, a Gibson-style mahogany body is usually more desirable for the tones needed to achieve heavy metal.
The next significant part of your guitar's tone comes from the pickups. The first type of pickup most commonly found on a guitar is a single coil pickup. A single coil pickup gets a very pure, natural, usually low gain output and tone. This type of pickup is generally preferred by blues, rock, or jazz guitarists. The single coil can really provide a more vocal tonality for the soloing guitarist and was preferred by Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Ritchie Blackmore, and many others.
The single coil pickup had its limitations in tone, however. One problem with a single coil pickup is its natural clean tone. The pureness of this pickup does not always lend itself towards the tones of heavy metal. The second problem with a single coil pickup is the annoying 60-cycle hum that the pickup always has. In order to eliminate this annoyance, an entirely new pickup had to be invented. Seth Lover invented the humbucking pickup to do just what it sounds like, eliminate the hum. Consequently, a beefier, higher output, heavy metal rich sound was found. This pickup type is far more preferential for the style of heavy metal. Take notice of what appears to be two single coil pickups glued together. These two single coil sources for sound neutralize the hum with polar opposite magnetic pole pieces. This sound is then shot out of your output jack and into your guitar pedals or amplifier.
Your pickups work in conjunction with your pickup selector switch to turn on and off or blend your pickups. Your pickup selector switch will come in 3 or 5 selectable positions. A selector switch in the up or left position commonly controls the neck pickup or rhythm position and can generally get bassier rhythm tones. A selector switch in the down or right position commonly controls the bridge pickup or the treble tone. Selector switch positions in between add, mix, or blend two pickups to achieve different tonal textures. The in-between positions on a Strat-style pickup selector will also eliminate the 60-cycle hum associated with single-coil pickups.
Every guitar has a volume knob. Use your volume knob to control the output level of your guitar going to your amplifier. Most guitars have a tone knob. The tone knob is a very basic overall equalizer for your guitar's output. The tone knob generally gets very low bass tones at a low output level. On the higher output level setting, a tone knob will produce higher treble outputs. This is a very common setting.
The next area of your guitar is the bridge section. Your bridge can come in many styles. All bridges contain 6 individual saddles that a string rests on, with 1 adjustment screw per saddle. A Gibson-style bridge is a small, oval-shaped piece of metal before the final tailpiece.
The major difference between the Gibson and Fender-style bridge is the Fender style has a floating tremolo system with a tremolo arm used for vibrato, as opposed to a tunematic Gibson-style fixed bridge, which is held to the guitar by the string's tension between the tuning pegs and the tailpiece. A Gibson-style bridge will be attached to the body and be the final guiding point between the tuning pegs. Heavy metal can be physically demanding, so it is very important for you to stretch and generate blood flow to your fingers and hands before you start playing. Here are some simple examples of how to get warmed up each day before you get started. If you are in a cold environment, the first thing you'll want to do is generate some heat to your hands. A simple way to do that would be by rubbing your hands together rapidly. If that doesn't do the trick, simply go to the water faucet, turn on some warm to hot water, and get the blood flow to your fingertips. Another simple thing to do is just shake your hands out as if you're drying them. Do this for about 10 to 20 seconds, and that's certain to loosen up your hands a bit. Now, if you're going to be standing and playing, you're going to want to do some simple stretches. This will ensure that your back is loosened up and you're not all tense and tight. So, start by stretching above your head. You can then bring your hands to your side, and then even stretch behind you like such. Another exercise that is highly effective at loosening up your back would be just to simply hug yourself. Do that for 10 to 20 seconds, then cross your arms opposite. Do it again. Again, this will help loosen up your back and get you ready and prepared to rock.
The most important lesson in life would have to be tuning your guitar. We will be in standard A440 tuning for most examples and riffs. If an example will be detuned, we will give you those tunings for reference. Crash Course Metal highly recommends that you use a good chromatic tuner for preparing to rock. If you can count to 8, that's great. If you can count to 12, even better. The reason why I say this is that in Western civilization's music, they only have 12 notes. That is the whole reason why your guitar has 2 dots in the 12th fret of the fretboard. That is the point on your guitar where everything starts over. Basically, your 12th fret is the same as the open strings on your guitar. This is the basics of chromatics and where the chromatic scale comes from. Basically, a chromatic scale is every note from the open low E to the 12th fret or octave E. Before we tell you the notes of a chromatic scale, you must know what a half step is.
A half step is any 1 fret interval, fret 1 to fret 2, or fret 5 to fret 6. Maybe you recognize this theme song. This interval is called a half step and commonly creates tension in music. The chromatic scale, more accurately defined, is 12 half steps all in a row. All scales start on a root note. This note is simply your starting point and indicates the key you are in. Before you learn the notes of the chromatic scale, you will need to know what a sharp is. Anytime a note is raised 1/2 step or 1 fret higher in pitch on the neck, it is referred to as a sharp note.
The notes of an E chromatic scale, ascending or going up in pitch are E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, ending on the E, which is your octave. When descending, these notes will be referred to as a flat note. Remember, these are the same notes as you just played, but they're going down in pitch. Now, I will refer to them as flats. E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E. Please do this exercise on each string. Remember, they're the same 12 notes, they will just have a different root note depending on which string you start from.
Here's how I hold the pick. I hold it this way because it gives me more control, precision, and speed. Some people prefer heavy picks for metal, especially if they're using thick strings. Otherwise, a thin pick is extremely effective for metal due to its light resistance and snapback performance with a light string. Your first exercise incorporates the chromatic scale. You should also concentrate on your picking technique because this is your warm-up as well. I would suggest all down, all up, or alternate picking strokes, down and up. A very important technique used by hard rock and heavy metal guitarists is called the palm mute. This is where the parts of your guitar are used to create thumping, percussive attacks for beat emphasis or dynamics. In order to achieve a palm mute, you must first rest the palm of your hand directly on the saddles of your bridge. You do not have to apply much pressure to achieve this sound. Your palm is merely resting on the bridge to mute your strings slightly. This is an example of palm muting on just the low E string. We will be using beats or metronomes to demonstrate the following exercises. You will hear 4 beats to count off each exercise. As you progress, you can experiment with faster tempos to help your chops develop.
Now that you're a little warmed up, I'd like to give you a basic harmony theory lesson. This next exercise is based off the major scale. The major scale is the foundation of most music in the Western civilization. Tonally, this scale takes on a happy persona except in the instances where half steps occur. The C major scale is a 7-note scale with a basic formula of 1 C, 2 D, 3 E, 4 F, 5 G, 6 A, 7 B. Every interval in this scale is a whole step or a 2-fret interval except for the 3rd to 4th or the E to F, which is a half-step interval, and your 7th to 8th or your B to C, leading you back to the octave root note. This is a movable pattern based off your 5th string root. This formula can be used in any position on your fretboard. Here's another example of the major scale with a movable pattern based off of your 6th-string root in a key commonly found in heavy metal, the key of G. In the key of G, your formula is 1 G, 2 A, 3 B, 4 C, 5 D, 6 E, 7 F sharp.
Every major key has a relative minor key, 3 half steps down from the major scale root. This next exercise is based off of the A minor scale, or the relative minor to the key of C major. Basically, the A minor scale shares the same key as the C major scale. However, by starting on and emphasizing the A root note, the happy persona of the major scale vanishes. The minor scale emphasizes the more metal minor intervals of the flat 3rd, flat 6th, and flat 7th notes. The reason I refer to these minor notes as flats is because you are using the major scale formula as your roadmap. In order to turn the major scale into a minor scale, you have to flatten your thirds, your sixths, and your sevenths. The minor scale formula is 1A, 2B, flat third C, 4D, 5E, flat sixth F, flat seventh G. C major's minor brother is the A minor scale. This is a movable pattern based off of your 6-string root. This formula can be used in any position on your fretboard. This next exercise is the scale that forms the foundation for much of heavy metal, so pay attention. Here's the same minor scale movable pattern in a different key. G major's relative minor is E minor. The E minor scale formula is 1E, 2 F sharp, flat third G, fourth A, fifth B, flat sixth C, flat seventh D. Remember, we are merely going to take the same pattern on the 6th string and move it up to the 12th fret, starting on the E root note.
By far, the most commonly used scale in metal is the pentatonic scale. This scale is preferred due to its tendency to hit pleasing notes against blues progressions, primarily due to the fact that the half steps are left out of the major scale and only 5 notes remain. Hence the name pentatonic. Penta, of course, derived from a 5-sided 5-note approach. It is ultimately a very simple 5-note scale, but when picking techniques and patterns are applied, you can create great licks or simple exercises such as the following. I encourage you to utilize all different types of picking techniques such as alternate picking and all up or down strokes. As you develop comfort, you can begin to add flair with bends or advanced hammer-on and pull-off techniques that we'll get into later. Like with the major and minor scales you've already learned, the pentatonic has both a major and minor version. Like the major scale, the major pentatonic has a happier persona, while the minor pentatonic really taps into that more bluesy or darker vibe. The harmonic formula for the major pentatonic scale in the key of C is 1C, 2D, 3E, 5G, and 6A. This next exercise is a movable pattern based off of your 5th string root. This formula can be used in any position on your fretboard. Here's another example of the major pentatonic scale with a movable pattern based off of your 6th string root in the key commonly found in metal, the key of G. The harmonic formula for the major pentatonic scale in the key of G is 1G, 2A, 3B, 5D, 6E.
C major pentatonic's relative minor is the A minor pentatonic scale. The harmonic formula for the A minor pentatonic scale in the key of A is 1A, flat 3C, 4D, 5E, and flat 7G. As you can see, the 2nd and the 6th are missing from the normal minor scale. This is a movable pattern based off of your 6th string root. This formula can be used in any position on your fretboard. This next exercise is the scale that forms the foundation for much of rock and roll, hard rock, and heavy metal. Here's the same movable minor pentatonic scale pattern in a different key. G major's relative minor is the key of E minor. The harmonic formula for the pentatonic scale in the key of E minor is 1E, flat 3G, 4A, 5B, flat 7D. We are merely going to take the same pattern on the 6th string and move it up to the 12th fret, starting on the E root note. And as I mentioned before, E minor is a very metal key, so you better pay attention. As we've discovered with the major and minor scales, anytime a half step occurs, tension is present. Blues players were looking for a way to get more emotion from their pentatonic scale. The missing emotion they found in the form of the blues scale. The blues scale lies within the pentatonic scale, with its main difference being the addition of the blues note. The harmonic formula for the E blues scale is 1 E, flat 3 G, 4 A, flat 5 B flat, 5 B, flat 7 D. This may look familiar to you because, like I said, if you take the flat 5 out, you have your minor pentatonic scale.
The blues scale's tonality borrows from both the major and minor sounds. This gives the scale a unique ability to express both happiness and sincere sadness. It is not uncommon for people to associate the blues with the sounds of screaming, howling, and crying. By adding the flat 5 blue note to the minor pentatonic scale, the music takes on that familiar bluesy sound. Without the flat 5 blues note and the blues scale, metal may never have existed. The next example will show you this scale. Keep using your picking technique to begin to develop your future lead techniques. In music and music theory, a chord is any collection of notes or pitches that are played simultaneously or near simultaneously. A common chord can consist of 3 notes in the form of a triad. Remember the formula for the C major scale? Simple. 1 C, 2 D, 3 E, 4 F, 5 G, 6 A, 7 B. A triad consists of taking a root or the C note, a third or the E note, and the fifth, your G note. Due to the guitar's unique scale and string intervals, chords are unlike a piano where you can stack a chord literally. In many instances, your third or fifth will be the second note you hit when strumming a downstroke.
Now that you know how to play a traditional chord, you will want to play some chords that really rock. You will want to play a power chord. But unfortunately, you're not ready yet. You must first learn how to play a bar chord. The following exercises will show you some very common chord types. A bar chord gets its name from what it implies. Your first finger acts as a capo and is used to bar the entire fret, while your other fingers play the essential major or minor chord tones that you learned about in the previous exercises. The following examples are bar chords based off of the 6th, 5th, and 4th string roots. Familiarize yourself with these shapes. They will be used on different strings all over the neck.
In this next exercise, we will share with you the most essential chord of all time, the power chord. Power chords were originally derived from bar chords. The harmonic difference between a bar chord and a power chord is the lack of a major or minor third. The power chord has a harmonic formula or chord structure of root, 5th, octave. which only has 2 notes as opposed to the triad or 3-note chords most commonly found in Western music. Consequently, power chords usually follow some form of progression, pattern, or movable riff to show signs of major or minor expression. The major or minor context of a chord is never expressed unless found in the context of a riff with movable chords. The E power chord is by far the most commonly found chord in heavy metal.
You have just learned the most basic power chord, the most metal E power chord, with a root based off of your low E 6th string. The following chord progression utilizes the movable power chord with the root on the 6th string. The last exercises showed you movable power chords based off of a 6-string root. These next exercises will emphasize movable power chords with a root based off of your 5th string. Take notice of the simple, similar chord shapes regardless of the root note string. This next exercise is one that you are going to keep with you for your entire life. This next example has been played all the way around the world and may be considered the most common bridge between jamming musicians. No matter what language you speak, the blues is the same wherever you go. This is why most early heavy metal bands gravitated to this simple style. It also gave them a simple progression to attach their power chords and riffs to, not to mention the pentatonic and blues scales. By the 1930s, the 12-bar blues became the standard. The blues chords associated with the 12-bar blues are typically a set of 3 different chords played over a 12-bar scheme. The following chord numbers can be based off of the major or minor scales. A 12-bar blues progression starts on the 1 chord for 4 measures. On the 5th measure, you will change to the 4 chord for 2 measures. At the 7th measure, you will go back to your 1 chord for another 2 measures. At measure 9, you will then play your 5 chord for 1 measure, then your 4 chord for 1 measure. And finally, at measure 11, you will play on your 1 chord for the 11th and 12th measure. There are two very common variations to the 12-bar blues. Some players prefer the 4 chord in the second bar. This is called a quick change. This adds a little extra flair to the monotony of writing on the 1 chord for 4 bars. The other commonly found variation is at the end of the 12 bars. Many players use a chromatic walking line up to the 5 chord and quickly jump back to the 1 chord. This is most commonly referred to as the turnaround. The Roman numbers refer to the chord numbers of the scale or key that you are in. In other words, the key of C would look like this. The 12-bar metal blues is an example of a very common heavy metal key used throughout all of early heavy metal.